I'll try and explain to you as I go along how it all works. There will be a question and answer session after the presentation itself, but let's start from the top. Okay, straight to that. Click share. Boom. Okay, this is the idea is that we're splitting biofeedback up into two separate presentations, of which this is one, and we'll be having another one shortly. That's essentially the idea. Biofeedback itself is when you're asking your generator and your computer what frequencies are up in the body, what is wrong. And I've done some biofeedback scans of one type at one time for like one purpose. And sometimes another issue that was wrong in my body would also be dealt with. So the technology was actually finding things that was wrong with the thing I was wanting to take a look at, as well as a few other things too, which I thought was quite interesting. But let's just have a look at it bit by bit. Get on to the next slide. There we go. So what is Spooky2? Spooky2 is a Rife therapy system that enables people like you and like me to apply healing frequencies to their own bodies using a wide variety of methods for therapeutic purposes. That's essentially what the whole system is. I don't know whether you've actually heard about Raymond Rife himself. He was quite an amazing guy. He was like a sportsman. He was an engineer. He built the fastest speedboats of his time. He was much more the kind of person who was happier in the laboratory than he was necessarily involved in things like marketing and business. And that's one of the many reasons why things didn't quite go according to plan in his history. He designed this amazing microscope that used specific light frequencies and so on and so forth to try and look at pathogens at a smaller detail than you can with regular light. And he discovered that frequency was like making these things go pop. Okay, these microorganisms, bacteria, whatever it was he was looking at would end up going pop. And he drew a connection between the frequency and so on and so forth, and created this idea you could kill pathogens with frequency. And of course, he's well known with a 100% remission rate cancer study in which he actually did that, and he worked out how to kill off the thing that was helping to cause the cancer, which I think is also pretty amazing. But today we're just talking about Spooky2. We're just talking about how it can essentially study your body, work out what numbers, what frequencies are wrong in your body, and also to help you to use this technology and to feel comfortable using this technology, okay, so that you can use that as part of your general wellness or to treat a specific issue. So what we're talking about today is your types of scan, including the pulse, the generator X, as well as how to apply the TENS pads to your body. A few of the settings, which I'm going to go into sufficiently so that you'll be able to essentially use it well enough for yourself. And what angle is about, what current is about, what angle and current together can be about, which should give you the basics 101 as to how to use this. And then the rest has to be up to you through further research, further study, and of course experimenting on your own body, which is of course the fun bit, really. Alright, so each method works in different ways to help find the frequencies your body needs. We got the personal scan or the general scan, which is a particular defined range. Then you got the optimized scan, which has some very cool features to it, and then there's the grade scan. We also have high frequency scanning in the software, and we also have fast scans. so that you can do these things quicker if required. Okay, so the personal or general scan, as it says here, performs a frequency sweep over a user-defined range. So there's a range of frequencies, which is like preset in the software. But then you can change that if there's a particular group of things you want to take a look at, taking into account what you've read, what you found out, and so on and so forth. And the frequencies that provoke the greatest response, bam, okay, the greatest response, they're the ones that will be reported and will appear in the window afterwards, okay? The optimized scan increases the accuracy of the programs. Now, if you've had a look at the database, you'll see that there will be frequency sets with a lot of whole numbers, okay? Or sometimes rounded up to tens, or the individual ones. They're not always going down to a tenth of a cycle per second. They're not always going down to 100th per cycle per second. They're not to 100% precise, are they? Okay. With an optimized scan, you can take any frequency set and you can make that more specific to you. Does that make sense? Okay. And then there's the grade scan, which helps you to work out which particular frequencies are most relevant to you. So if there's a list of, let's say, 100 frequencies, okay, and you want the 10 or 20 most effective ones for you, you can then select those and essentially discard the rest to make sure you've got a more targeted, precise frequency set for the purposes of helping to address your problems. So look at this screen for a moment and just think about how you could incorporate these different types of scan into your life. All right. If you've got, let's say, a frequency set which you might want to run for Candida albicans, for instance, and you get some good results from it, and you're running that, let's say, every day for a week, and you're not quite getting the results you want from that. Now you might panic and think you could choose another one out of all of the rest of the frequency sets of Candida albicans and see whether that would help. And I've done that before. Or you could take the same frequency sets and you could run it through optimized scan. Okay? And then you could run it, the results of that, through a grade scan and work out which of these more precise frequencies for you are most relevant. So you can then target further and further and further. All right. Let's say you've already done a biofeedback scan, and you're happy with the biofeedback scan, but it's not necessarily getting you the results you want. You can then run that through the grade scan or the optimized scan. We've got someone raising their hand. We'll come back to that in a second. Is it okay if we leave more of the questions and answers to the end? Because this is a relatively short presentation. I want to try and go into it with great detail, with sufficient depth for you. And I'm also trying to provide education for everyone who's currently here right now, as well as everyone. When I'm sharing the screen, I'm not quite sure if I can access the chat that easily. See if I can try and do that for you. Okay, we got someone here saying, I have an unknown chronic virus that manifests itself by swirls on my tongue. What's the best way to get samples? Blood, urine, or saliva? Okay, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm not a great healer. I can suggest something from what I'm thinking about here, but I can't turn around to you and say, this is the best way. If I was you, and I had the Sample Digitizer, which I'll be mentioning shortly, I would say saliva, cheek cells, getting a scraping off your tongue if you can, and I would definitely do a scan, a biofeedback scan with a TENS pad below your neckline on the shoulder and get a frequency set from that, and then run that through any delivery method such as remote contact plasma. Okay? How the program knows which is less effective? By the quality of result it provides. And how do I have this suggestion? Just by looking through my biofeedback list. We'll go through that in a second. Okay, we'll go through that in a second. All right. All right, now let's get back to system requirements. Basically, get yourself a Windows laptop. That's pretty much it. The vast majority of Windows laptops will work. You can keep it offline and just do what I do if I've got it here somewhere, because I just use a memory stick to update the Spooky2 software when a new release comes out. So I can just download that on my main computer I use for work, and then I can take my memory stick, I can put it into the laptop which is offline, and I can update. Okay. Okay, time to generator. We got the little blue one and we got the little silver one. They work in different ways. Okay. The generator X is capable of much higher frequencies and is much closer to what Raymond Rife himself actually did. And it also benefits from quicker biofeedback and does biofeedback in a different way using angle and current. The XM generator requires the pulse unit in order to do the scanning. Okay? Because the XM generator doesn't have any scan function built into it. You need to buy Spooky Pulse, which should come in your essentials kit when you get it. Because that measures the heart rate and heartbeat strength when your body reacts to a frequency. And it's quite a good way of getting into the problem. One thing I will say about the XM generator pulse biofeedback is that it's quite a good treatment in its own right. When the very first time when I got my Spooky kit, I thought, I'll give biofeedback a go. I'll use the XM generator. I'll use the pulse feature. And because the XM generator takes your body through an entire sweep of frequencies, it's like doing a frequency sweep which kills all pathogens in your body, or attacks, eat all pathogens in your body. And I got the most extreme Hochheimer reaction. 2 days later, I was passing all kinds of disgusting things in the toilet bowl. It was like, intense. This is a treatment, the XM scan is a treatment which really does attack pathogens in your body. This is a fact from personal experience. So if you've got the XM generator, try and do scans regularly for a couple of different reasons. Number one, you want your scan results. And number two, you want the benefit of doing a bit of cleaning on the way. Now, the generator X needs the TENS pads to connect to to your body. It doesn't need a pulse unit, but it measures whether something is up in terms of frequency disturbance in your body through the current going through your body and how strong that is and how that's been affected at different frequencies, as well as essentially how fast the signal is going through, which is called the phase angle. Okay, so if you've got a wave that really should be arriving at a destination there, and hey presto, it arrives there instead, there's a reason for that. And that's pretty much what angle is about. So doing scans based upon current and angle and current together will yield different qualities of results, which is also another important part of your toolkit. So this particular slide goes into the two generators and what they can do. The generator X is essentially two Spooky generators put in one box. Okay, so you've got 4 outputs being 2 generators together. Now there may be 4 little output bits on the XM generator, but 2 of them we don't typically use for our purposes. So essentially we call it a generator which has got 2 outputs. The XM generator goes up to 5 megahertz. The generator X goes up to 40 megahertz. Okay? I don't think you can say one is better than the other, because essentially they're 2 different tools that work in different ways. And I use a combination of both of them in my regular practices to look after myself. There is the standalone function, so you can load up onto the generator X a pre-existing scan results you've done, or some existing programs, but it won't allow for things like feathering and wobbling and sweeps and so on and so forth. Okay, it's just a pure, straight, singular frequency in any waveform for any particular, what we call shell, okay, which I'll come into shortly if you don't know what the shell presets are about. But you can put those frequency sets with the same duration per frequency onto the generator X itself, which is actually quite cool. Okay, with generator X, you can do a very fast biofeedback scan. Even the regular biofeedback scans are faster than with the XM, a lot faster than with the XM. Right? You can do scans which take 6 minutes. If you adjust the settings on the regular or the high frequency scan, you can get that down to 5.5 minutes less, depending upon what you type in to some of the settings. And it can be quick, and that can be useful if you're incorporating the results of your biofeedback, let's say, by example, into the Morgellons and Lyme protocol or the cancer protocol, which is within the software. I personally am using the Morgellons and Lyme one because that's the kind of type of issues I'm dealing with. Okay, modulation between any waveform up to 5 kilohertz gating any duty cycle. So now we've got to look into using the frequency generators to scan the body via contact method. And contact method essentially means using TENS pads to the most part. I have done some biofeedback scans in the past with the hand cylinders. I've spoken to someone recently who's doing an experiment to see whether they can do workable biofeedback using the conductive socks and gloves. But essentially, you'll get much better connection to your body using adhesive TENS pads than you would with any other method. But if you've got something inside you which has come out of you through one form or another, and you want to take a good look at it and establish its frequency set so that you can do something to try and get rid of it, we've got this device called the Sample Digitizer, which again works with generator X, not with XM, okay, the silver one, not the blue one, and can be used to establish a biofeedback result, which you can then deliver to your body through any of the normal means that you would using Spooky2. How the program knows which is less effective, and how do we have this suggestion just by looking through the biofeedback? This one's come up again for some reason. I'll work that out later. Okay, we'll discuss more complex things in a moment. Now we're moving on to the next bit of technology, which I've also played with. The Scalar device from Spooky2 with an extra component called Scalar Digitizer, which plugs into the Scalar unit, can give you biofeedback results without you having to be connected to a machine. So no hand cylinders, no TENS pads, no nothing. You just lie between these two boxes, and the energy field between the lids of the boxes will ascertain what's up with your body. Okay, very useful. From personal experience using something called hunt and kill, which I think we're doing at the next webinar. There were some things that were not necessarily attacked in my body when it was killing what it had found, but there were others that were killed when it was found. So I think we got to use these tools in different ways and be creative about how we take our scans and how we deliver them. So I personally would be more inclined to take my scan using Scalar for the convenience, but then run it using Contact or maybe Plasma or Spooky Central. You could also use remote, of course. Now, this is the kind of screen which gives most people a heart attack. Because when I first saw this screen, I thought there's too many numbers, there's too many things there, I don't fully understand what this is really all about. Okay, we got some more things coming through on chat. Let's see if I can open that, if that's going to work for me. No, it's not opening the chat window. We may have to do that after the presentation. Bear with me a second. Oh, hi. No, there it is. Why do you say keep your laptop offline? You don't have to. It's just it stops you from having Windows updates, which could affect the scans themselves. Which are the personal optimizing grade scan in a preset biofeedback panel? On the panel, the options are fine in general. There's more options there. We'll have a look at that shortly. Okay. How many times is it best to use the TENS pads? I use a pair of TENS pads for a week usually. Then I throw them away. It is possible to buy a gel which you can use so you can recycle your TENS pads or extend their life. Where is it best to attach TENS pads to the body? Ah, that's why you're here. That's why you're here today. I'm going to show you some pretty pictures about where to put TENS pads on your body. So don't worry about that. That's coming up. I do top of the wrist and right hand and left side of left ankle. That's good for many things, very many things. You don't do it the other way around. You don't do left wrist to right angle, otherwise the current could potentially go through the heart, and that could be really, really bad. So it's right wrist to left angle to try and get most of the body done. Okay, we'll get on to the rest of the questions later, as that chatter is suggesting. Okay, but look at this screen for the moment. Look at this screen just for the moment, and let's have a look at the important bits. Okay, the first most important bit is immediately underneath the words biofeedback scan. What does it say there? It says log name. You will want to, at some point, use the software to develop a deeper analysis of the information that's come up as a result of a scan. You will want to do that. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. Okay? So you've got to be able to find that specific scan result. So you type in a name and a date in that box where it says log name underneath biofeedback scan. Nice long rectangular box next to the words log name. Use it. Really important. If you don't do that, it'll be lost with a string of like digits, and you'll think like, I didn't know which one's which anymore. Okay, it'll get more complicated for you. So give it a log name. I'm going to be honest with you. I took this one particular screenshot when I wasn't doing a biofeedback. That's why some of this is grayed out. Okay, some of the letters are in black, some of them are in gray. Okay, but essentially you can still see them, and that's the most important thing. Now let's go down through the list. On the left-hand side, you've got start frequency and finish frequency. For the most part, I leave that be. Okay. Sometimes I may want to adjust it because there's something in particular I've researched and there's a particular frequency range I want to take a look at. But that's normally kept the same. Underneath that, you've got initial step size. When you've got two options there, haven't you? One that says 100 and one that says 0.025. Now, the 0.025 is a percentage. Okay? It's not a quarter of a 1%, it's a quarter of a tenth of 1%. You can speed up your scans through changing that number on initial step size percentage to 0.25. It will, of course, lower the accuracy. It will make your scan faster. If I leave everything the same for my fast scan and my general scan, I can be lying still for between 30 and 50 minutes on my generator X. If I adjust that one figure, I'm shortening the duration of the scan. Okay? Max hits to find is beneath that. So you can choose how many hits, how many numbers you want to get. Because the software and the hardware could pick up lots of information and it will give you the top 10 or the top 20, depending upon what number you type in there. And you've got to think about what number you want, the number of frequencies you want, taking into account how long you want each frequency to run for. Is it 2 minutes? Is it 4 minutes? Is it 3 minutes? These days, I personally do 3 minutes per frequency, usually. Right, the start delay, that's the number of cycles it will do prior to you starting out, starting to scan your body. So that gives you a moment to get comfortable in bed or on your chair or sit down reading a book or whatever. If you're doing an XM scan, it's a very different kettle of fish. You've got to be very, very still for a long time. Then beneath that threshold, now that number there, 0.01, that's a very, very small number. Okay? If you were to increase that to 0.1, you would again increase the duration of you would reduce the duration of your scan. But again, you'd lose some detailed information there. So you'd be less likely to get total precision for your frequency set. It would still be a good frequency set. It would just not be necessarily as good as you would like it to be, maybe. You have to experiment on your body and work it out. Now on the second column, we've got this word which says detects. Can you all see that? Okay. As you go down that second column, you'll see some grayed out letters which will say angle, current, and angle and current. These are pretty important. Okay. If you click on angle, it will give you results based upon phase angle. You will get quite a lot of results with that. If you click on current, you will only get results based upon the current going through your body. And finally, if you click on angle plus current, you'll have a mix of both of them. To make life easier for myself, I usually do my scans based upon angle and current. But what you can do, and this is where the saving a name comes into it, in the log name field we mentioned earlier on, underneath the words biofeedback scan. Okay? Because you can do a scan based upon current, and you can then open it up using the Analyze button on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And you can then select it, and you can then look at it via angle or angle and current. You can then create a chain of these frequency sets. You can remove duplicates, and then you have a longer but more accurate, more beneficial scan for you. Do you see how that works? So let's look at the whole hardware and software as setting up the XM. Because the XM, the blue generator, it's good fun, more affordable option for many people. I like it. I actually, I do like it. We'll start off with the pulse. Plug it in and turn on the generator and then the computer. Boot up your Spooky2 software. The green light on the pulse unit will be constant. So the green light just shows you it's on. The red light will be flashing at your heart rate when you've got the little green rubber bit over your finger with the wire hanging down on the outside. Okay, wire hanging down on the outside, but with a little green thimble on your finger, or the ear clip on your ear. Got to use the boost because that's how XM scans work. And you connect the TENS pads to the high power port, and it says on it high power, which is that one there. I don't know whether you can see my face as well as the presentation, but either way, there we go. Hopefully my screen is not flipped round backwards. But either way, it says, where is it? Just underneath the port itself, high power. So if you're struggling with your eyesight like I am, put your spectacles on, get a magnifying glass, and you'll be able to see which one is high power port. Plug your TENS pads in onto the TENS cable. Take the pulse unit to the USB port on your Windows computer. So you have to have a computer which has at least 2 USB ports. All right, one for the generator and one for the pulse unit. If you want to do this, if this is like the method you want to choose. Okay, ear clip or your finger pulse unit. And this handsome chap is lying down here with the ear clip in place. Okay? Simple, relax. TENS pads, right wrist, left ankle, because that's going to cover more of the whole body. One of the features of the XM scanning is it's designed to try and tackle the whole body to the most part. Okay? It's the main thrust of using it is what's wrong in the whole thing. Whereas Generator X is usually a bit more location specific. So I think there's another justification to have both functionalities in your life, in reality. Okay, this particular screen is made up of, as you can see, 3 cuttings from the screen, from the software itself. The first thing you do is select Biofeedback. Then you select Spooky Pulse, which is illustrated on the left-hand image, right at the bottom. Once you've selected that, you can then select General, which is illustrated in the middle image I've taken there. And then we need to have a look at the type of scan you want to run. Okay? A half scan would be half a scan. A quarter scan would be a quarter of a scan. That's more or less all you really need to know about it. Right. But then you've also got general purpose and grade program. I've mentioned the grade before. I've mentioned the general or your personal scan before, and also optimized scan. And as you can see, it's got the word shell in it, which is present also with the title grade program shell. Okay, because that's something which defines the settings for another frequency set you're going to put into the software. I think that the word shell is, I'm not sure, so please, I just read this somewhere. I think that the word shell goes back to some of the older traditions of writing. And someone said, we'll use this word to mean some settings or some presets of the settings so that we can then use that to make life in the process of doing writing easier. That's what I think happened there. I don't know. Maybe John's going to have a chat with me afterwards and explain. Then go onto your control panel. Click Override Generator. And then you can select whichever little colored generator port box is relevant to that generator. Okay, if you've only got one, you've got one. But you can also use the software to tell you which generator is which port if you're using XM generators. If you're using the generator X, it will already say on the screen which generator is for which port on your software, thus making life a little bit easier for you. So at that point, either you click scan or you get someone else to do it, and you just lie still. 30 cycle countdown, scan will begin. And then you will get your list of numbers up, which is right for you. And those numbers can then be saved and run through a killing or healing shell for the purposes of helping something which is already in your body, in the case of a healing shell, or reducing something which is inside your body using the killing shell. Does that make sense? So when it's complete, you're going to get a list. It will just appear on your screen, on your software screen. And if it's a really, really long list, you can deselect the ones at the bottom and just keep the ones at the top selected. Maybe the top 10, top 20. And then you can save. Now, if you type something into the log name screen, that little box I mentioned underneath the word biofeedback, you will then be able to find it again. And you'll then be able to use it in different ways. Okay? Such as using the Analyze Plus button to look at it from the point of view of angle, angle, and current, and save it in those three different formats, and use that to create for yourself a more beneficial frequency set. And that's what a selection of scan results could look like. These are quite high numbers. I think these are from a Generator X scan. That's what it is. You know, you keep the ones you want, the ones at the top, the ones at the bottom. Maybe you want to get rid of, or maybe you want to keep the lot. That's up to you. But maybe you don't actually want a frequency set that's longer than 10 or 20 frequencies to the most part, so that you can run that by contact in the morning when you're reading the morning newspaper, and also in the evening before you go to bed whilst watching a bit of crap TV. So it can actually fit into your life. So the process of setting up Generator X is in fact very simple. Okay, you don't have an ear clip, you don't have the thing on your finger. You've only got the same equipment you would use to run programs by contact mode. TENS pads, the generator, TENS cable, USB cable, and the power pack thing you want that gives it the mains electricity. Okay, this is where you don't use a boost. You don't use a black boost unit. You use the boost unit with the blue generator, the XM generator. You don't use it with the silver generator, the XM. And you plug your TENS cable into output 1. of whichever of the two generators in generator X you want to use. Now we're getting on to the fun bit. Someone asked about TENS pad placement. And this is about TENS pad placement for generator X scanning. Because most of the forces of evil inside your body is in the abdomen. Okay, most of it is. So you can scan the abdomen. Left side, right side. And that will get most of it. So you get a pretty good picture of the whole body's muck just through scanning either side of the abdomen. However, if there's a particular problem in a particular bodily region you want to have a look at, be creative. Scan either side of that problem. Okay? Making sure you avoid important organs such as thyroid and eyes. No TENS pads on the head at all. Okay? Your brain is an important organ. It's my second favorite, but it's pretty important. You got to avoid the heart, and men should probably avoid the genitalia as well, I would have thought. There are some other things which you may want to have a look at, and if you do a search, I think John White's did a lovely video about this and an illustration about where to place TENS pads for both treatment and scanning. But essentially, to the most part, left and right hand side of your abdomen is very good. Now, I'd like to encourage you to either get out your phone camera, or maybe you want to use the print screen button at the moment, because I've got a couple of screens here. This is the first of 3 screens about different forms of TENS pad placement for treatment, as well as for specific problem scanning. All right? So there's abdomen, calf pain, shin pain, and lower back. As this is being recorded and uploaded somewhere, you know, you can watch this again, you can go over it again, you can take your screenshots, write some handwritten notes, whatever it is you want to do. But just take just a moment to have a look at that. Should give you a feeling. I mean, to the most part, it's a bit more commonsensical once you've realized that the generator X will scan well when the pads are a little closer together than with the XM generator. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's have a look at the second screen. If you know someone who's got sciatica, there's regions you can take a look at there, either side of the spine or moving down the leg where the problem is. Upper back, left and right hand side of the area, or for above and below the area. Elbow, either side of the elbow. And you can see which place for the hips and glutes. Knees, rear thigh, quad, shoulder. Okay? So from this, you can see that for localized problems, you can get a reasonably good detailed impression of what particular frequency sets are not quite right, that need work. And that's what this technology can help you. Okay, now we're looking at setting up and running the thing. If you turn on your generator first, that's the best. Then you can turn on your computer. Then the computer will recognize the generator. Then you set up the software, and the software on the computer will recognize the generator. It's not advisable to start off by turning on the computer, then plugging in the generator. You can do that. It's just not as good. It's much easier and quicker to do it this way. You can then select in Biofeedback, Generator X, And then on my little right hand image there, you can see there's all the different types of scans you can do. Of which for myself, I would normally do high frequency, general biofeedback, or fast. I could do general biofeedback with baseline, I just haven't quite got round to it. Okay, that's just not my thing, I just haven't done that. But we've got grade scanning in there. We've also got hunt and kill, which is a very good treatment I do periodically, and scan and run, which are two different types of things, and we'll have a look at that in the next presentation. Okay? So your next process is click on the control tab, and that brings you to, on the bottom right-hand side of your software, the biofeedback screen. And that's when you can create some changes. That's when you can look at initial step size, your percentage, and raise that if you want to. Change the number of hits you want to find, and raise the threshold to 0.1, which a lot of people would do. Some would keep it the same. A lot of people would rate it. I would tend to rate it because I want my scans to. Now on the right-hand column, it says calculate using running average or peak. I've had some pretty interesting experiences with both. And I haven't, to be honest, I'm just going to be honest with you, I haven't really researched which one would always necessarily be best out of those two options for what it is I'm trying to do. I tend to leave it on running average. I get some wonderful, beneficial results from that. Okay, that's essentially what I was talking about there. You've got to work out whether you want to have a longer generator X scan with a much higher precision and accuracy, or whether you just need to fit in a quick one because you haven't got time because of life gets in the way. All right. Given a quick mention of angle current and angle and current before, I choose angle and current every time. Why? It provides me with more hits, more reliably, and there will be good results for my body. Sometimes I can do a scan based on currents and I'll get nothing coming up in the window. But, and this is the important thing, if I typed in a name in the log name box, then I can find the scan and I can use the Analyze button to analyze that scan from the point of view of angle and current and get the numbers from that without having to do another scan. So typing in the name into the log name box is a good way of saving time for later. You know, hopefully that makes sense to you. So clicking override generator and then open the generator you want to use and then click scan. Now the fun thing about doing a scan with generator X as opposed to XM is that you can do it whilst you're watching TV. You can do it whilst you're reading a book. It's okay, it doesn't matter. It's best if you're as relaxed and rested as is possible. But it's okay to do these things whilst doing something more creative. When you're doing an XM scan, generator XM with pulse, lie still. No ifs, no buts. Still, 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 still. Lie still. No movement. Okay? Generator X, read a book, watch TV. It's okay. Okay. Now, I'm someone who has quite a serious history of candida, yeast, mold, funguses, And these other things, which I like to call co-infections. I found it incredibly useful to get involved in bioelectric therapies, especially Rife. And if you, let's say, were to run a frequency set for mold killing, and you end up freeing your lungs from blockages that were there just through running a frequency set for mold via contact. Right wrist, left ankle, killing shell. You know full well it's doing you some good. You know, I can use this technology for maintenance. If I've killed off yeast to the point whereby I can taste them being killed off, I know I'm making progress. If I can use Candida albicans sets, and I can feel something rubbery in my guts, which has been blocking me up for ages, being broken down like a strong wind is going through the body and removing pieces of rubber, then yeah, I think this has been good for me. But I want to get more precise, so I'm going to use my grade scans, I'm going to use my optimized scans to try and make sure I'm getting closer to achieving the goals done. So, a great source of information from you will be Spooky2videos.com. Definitely go to spooky2-mail.com and read the blogs. One great thing, okay, about Spooky is that anything that you can ask about is available on Google, because Spooky2 has put out so many blogs. And you can search, and you will find the answer to your question if you search with the term Spooky2 in the title. That's all you've got to do. Okay? But go to spooky2-mail.com/blog index, and you'll come across all of the information. And join us. Join us in the Facebook groups, because it's cool. And if you want to buy yourself a kit, either XM or Generator X, great places to go is spooky2.com and spooky2-mail.com. I recommend it. Definitely. Especially if you're someone like me who's got candida or mold or co-infections and you're working through stuff.